So I've been thinking recently about this concept of being a peacemaker because we just recently had our church's general conference, which happens twice a year, and all the leaders of the church get together and some of them present talks on different topics. And this past session of general conference, our prophet gave a talk on the topic of being peacemakers. And then this Sunday in our women's group at church, which is called the Relief Society, we had our Sunday lesson focused on the topic of the prophet's talk on being a peacemaker. And a couple of women raised their hands and kind of expressed this feeling of overwhelm and pressure to be peacemakers when we're in a world right now that feels like there's a lot of chaos and heavy things going on that we don't have a lot of power over personally and can't affect or solve the problems that are out there. And so our discussion went in the direction of, well, what do we have influence over? What is our circle of influence, and how can we create peace within our reach, in our homes, in our families, and the people that are around us that we do have some influence over? And as we do that, focus on what's in our own personal responsibility, those things ripple out into the larger world. And if we're all, doing our part, we can make a difference on a larger scale, but that our own responsibility is more immediate, more close to home in most cases. And so as we were talking about this, the thought that kept coming to my mind was the importance of starting more personally with ourselves, because if we don't feel peace within, then it's pretty difficult to share peace with others around us. So that was kind of the main thing that I took with me after that lesson. I was just thinking about, how do we create peace within in order to create peace in our home and surroundings and for the people that we have an influence over. So I sat down and I made a list of some ideas, and I found that they fit pretty well into 4 different categories: to clear your mind, to get rid of those anxieties and overwhelm and worries that we have, to create calm, to connect spiritually, and the 4th is to let go. I hope that if it sparks some ideas in you, or if you have some advice of your own, ways that you create calm and peace for yourself and your family and surroundings, that you'll share some of that in the comments. So the first category of ways to cultivate peace personally is to clear the mind. And here are some of the ideas that I had written down. The first one is writing. Journaling. A couple of ways that I like to do that are a brain dump. So just write down whatever's on your mind and get it all out. Sometimes just doing that is a relief and kind of clears space in your mind for allowing you to let go of those worries and stresses. Or if you want to get more specifically, you can start with a prompt, like just writing about what's weighing you down right now. And then once you get all of that out, you could ask yourself, for each of those things, like, is this something that I'm responsible to carry? Or is this something I'm responsible to carry today? Try to give yourself permission to let those things go as you realize there's not something you can do about it today. The second one is to practice gratitude. You can use a gratitude journal to write down things per day that you're grateful for. Make it a daily routine, or you can just do it as like a one-time task where you just make a list of as many things as you can think of that you're grateful for and see how long you can make it. And then another one I thought of for gratitude is to tell someone, whether it's in person or through an email or a text message, or send a letter in the mail and tell them that you're grateful for them or something that they did for you. And then the third one in this category that I have written down is unplug. So that could be turning off your Wi-Fi completely. That could be turning off your phone. That could be leaving the house and not taking your phone with you. Or it could be trying to simplify things on your phone by deleting some of the more distracting apps that you may not really need on your phone. The second category that I had focused on was creating calm. And the first thing that always comes to my mind for this, for me personally, is music. So whether that's turning music on that's peaceful. For me, this is often instrumental music or religious music. The other thing is to play music if you play an instrument. Recently, I've been practicing the hymn, Be Still My Soul, and every time I sit down to practice it, I do notice a change in the way that I feel. It is calming. It's almost like as you're thinking about the words to the hymn, it's like a prayer as you're thinking about them. Another one is to get out in nature. Go for a walk or just sit outside. Have something to eat, have a little picnic, take a drink out there. Just experience your surroundings, what you can see, what you can hear, what you can feel or touch. Sometimes I'll take my camera outside and just take pictures of the things that I notice, and that's a good calming, peaceful practice for me. Another idea is to sit in a room that's dark or dimly lit and light a candle. And I've done this by having a bubble bath and just having candlelight. I've done sitting on the floor and stretching or doing some yoga, something that feels good to my body while I'm just being calm and creating a calm atmosphere. Another one that I've been doing recently is reading, studying scripture. It could be reading a novel that you really like. It could be a book of poetry. Baking or cooking something from scratch. I have noticed, I've always liked baking, I think because I like the result of a sweet treat more than I like the result of cooking. I've noticed that when I'm cooking from scratch, and this applies to baking as well, just the focus on the simple task at hand, each little step of the recipe can just be calming. It's kind of like that slow living approach to just slow down, focus on what you're doing, and let your mind wander and just feel, I don't know, it can lead to a feeling of peace as you're doing things like that. Another one is when you're in the car, keep the radio off, drive in silence. Oh, making your space peaceful. So maybe that's decluttering, maybe that's organizing, or maybe that's adding some beauty to a space in your home that you use and just making it a place that when you walk in, you feel peaceful. You could go and get a massage or have someone give you a massage your feet, whatever. And then the last one in this category that I had was sleep. Prioritizing sleep, getting to bed early, turning lights down early so that you're ready for bed, plugging your phone in somewhere else and not using it for a while before bed so it's easier to fall asleep, catching up on sleep with a nap if you have the opportunity. Next is connecting spiritually in some way. So I think of things like prayer and meditation. I think about service as well, doing something nice for somebody else. And I wrote a couple of thoughts down for that. You could deliver a treat, you could send a thoughtful text, write and send a snail mail letter, call or email, and ask someone for an update on how their life is going. Complete a chore for a family member. This is a good one if you have kids at home who are responsible for certain things. Just do their chore for them. And I would say practice trusting God. And when I say practice, I mean sometimes we know that we believe we trust God and we know God's capable of things, but we don't act like we think he will, or like we try to take over and do things that maybe he's willing to do and we need to let him do. And so I say practice because I think it can be tricky to recognize when something is your job and when it's not your job, and when something can be let go of and given to him. So it's a practice. It can be challenging. It can be a process to figure that out and to figure it out over and over again with different things. And then the final category I have is related to that, and it's letting go. So the one I just mentioned applies. And then I would say don't resist the quiet in between times in your day. Like, it's really easy to just pick up our phone and scroll or check email or whatever and fill our time, the little gaps in our time with things like that. But like when you're waiting in line somewhere or waiting in a waiting room or walking around, you got something in your ears, a podcast or music or whatever, allow those quiet in between moments of boredom and let your mind wander and see if that doesn't help contribute to this sense of peace. This is going a little bit back to what I said earlier about kind of this letting go and letting God concept. Let go of pressure, stress, worry, and sense of responsibility over making peace on a greater scale. When you hear an encouragement to be a peacemaker, focusing in on your circle of influence, what is within your reach in the things that you do each day, and just focus on that and try to let the greater scale go. When you do notice those feelings of stress, worry, pressure, overwhelm, when you feel those feelings coming up, just pause and do something like take a deep breath, or do one of those grounding techniques like noticing your 5 senses. Just like take a second and like, what am I feeling right now? What am I smelling? What am I hearing? What am I seeing? And just like think about those things. And as you like focus in on those, it takes your mind out of the thing that you're stressed about or worrying about, and it can help calm you down in those moments. I would also say letting go applies to saying no. When we say yes to so many things, and often we're saying yes to all good things, but when there are too many of them on our plate, it can contribute to that overwhelm. And so saying no sometimes when you can, when it makes sense to, paying attention to where can I say no, and then doing it. And finally, I would say letting things be good enough, not getting too wrapped up in perfectionism and feeling like you have to get things done all the way or perfectly in order for them to be good enough. Letting things be undone and being easier on yourself and gentler with yourself. And if you have any other thoughts on how you do this or advice for others, I would love to see that in the comments. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.